Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. What do you think are the best fruit to throw at people? I think apples might be the answer, because they're ball-shaped but misshapen enough that you could put a little English on it and turn an apple into a curveball. Maybe pears would be better for curveballs and apples are preferred for sliders. But if we change the MLB to the point where they pitch fruit instead of baseballs, there'd be way more rules about the types of fruit that are thrown, and there'd be challenges because someone is bound to start throwing kiwis. Or maybe we can rule out berries. But bananas are berries, and I really want to see someone strike out Bryce Harper with a banana. Not necessarily the same banana. They should switch them out, and if the umpire inspects it and it's too bruised or it's ripe or overripe, they toss it out and get a new one. Obviously, the bat would be replaced by sausages, but you can't use oranges. They're only good for four-seam fastballs. And so if you see an orange, you know what's coming. And pineapples, well, they're way too easy to hit, especially off-speed pineapples. Anyway, never mind. This is where independent thoughts might lead you. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am your host, the Madman. Welcome. I hope we had a couple weeks off, man. I was on the verge of getting bored. Like on the verge, like the very edge of it. And so, I did a lot of writing. I was able to write a lot. So I have a lot of stuff to say today. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. I sure as heck did. I did. I watched a great movie with my dad and my niece, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And, we nom-nommed on some serious Turkish. Stuffing, gravy, how it is. Hope you did the same. I hope there's not like homeless people sitting there watching my YouTube channel being like, this guy's an asshole. Anyway, I want to remind you that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. There you can become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. I also have the social media. Follow me on Twitter at Denolitsaw. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. And you know what? All you porn site scammer girls trying to direct message me on Instagram, you can all burn in hell. I don't know if there's any single guys out there that use Instagram. You get a bunch of random hot chicks, so they're wanting to DM you. Don't answer them. If you also like comment on like some famous person's YouTube, like a Ben Shapiro video or something like that, you'll get somebody saying, "Hey, message me on WhatsApp. I'm the real Ben Shapiro and I use WhatsApp." And I was like, okay, okay, Ben Shapiro uses WhatsApp. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I would appreciate that. I also have books available on Amazon.com for digital download. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's. I got the Bunny Ears, I got the Ravings of a Madman, and I got the Exit 13 books. So you can go check those out. I appreciate them. They make a great gift for people, for the reader in your family. I'm sure, maybe it's not you. I hope you read, if you watch this show, because I read a lot. I can't stop. It's an addictive thing. It got so bad that I said, I'm sick of putting stuff in. I got to put stuff out. And that's how I became a writer. I'm full. I need to. Anyway. So I want to do one quick thing before we go into this first segment here, and that's the Spanish word of the day, and that is Shartamos. Now, it's a very rarely used Shartamos because the odds of it happening are very, very low. Shartamos means we all shart. So that means like everyone you're with, a todos, all shart at the exact same time. Because as you know, in Spanish, there's past and present and future, iterations of verbs and stuff like that. So Shartamos is very rarely used because it very rarely happens at the same time. The only time I ever heard of it actually being needed to be used legitimately once was when there was 2 people in the room and they both were trying to fart at the same time. And you know how it goes. So it's very rare to use that word. But hey, it's fun to learn rarely used Spanish words. Anyway, so if you got through that and didn't think to laugh once and think there was a joke, I don't know if you're going to make it through the rest of the show. Now, I've been sitting on this story, this rant, for a little while because of the title. And the title of it is Retarded Bees. Now, don't get your panties in a twist, okay? The term applies. In context, sometimes the term applies. And let's be honest, in a world of free speech, we need to have access to the entire human lexicon and the entire anything that humans can conceive in order for the matters to be discussed openly and freely. Anyway, my point is that, you know, okay, get some audio issues. My point is that these retarded bees, right? This is where it starts. I had an uncle that lived with us for a while, and I shared my office area, which has an exterior door to the exterior, and I shared a room with his dogs for a little while. And so, he'd take the dogs out to walk. We'd walk the dogs out the back door and stuff like that. So in the summer, you know, the door's always opening and closing and stuff like that. And eventually a bunch of flies got in there. And with like dog food and dog treats laying around, you know, there's bound to be more flies. And, you know, so we had a bit of a fly problem one summer. And so, you know, my uncle went out and got these like fly strips, the classic glue strips. And that worked great. I mean, that always works great. So you get tons of fly corpses on those things. But he also got this little electronic fly deterrent that you plug into a wall. And so over like 3 days, all the big flies ended up sticking to this fly paper. And over like the last 2 days, there were these little tiny flies that started appearing. And they were really dumb. They would like, they were like really small, and they'd come and they'd fly and they'd land like right next to you. And you could blow on them and they'd stay there. You can pick them off the wall, throw them across the room, and they'd just get up and like, oh, what happened? And then go back to whatever they're doing. So I think that this electronic bug deterrent actually retarded those flies' development. And I don't know what's more cruel, sticking them to glue paper or like turning them all into, these trans kids to get their, anyway. You know, like potential perpetual adolescence in fly concepts, you know what I mean? This arrested development of these little flies. So eventually all the flies were gone. We didn't have to worry about that again. And so, you know, we took down the little fly strip and tons of corpses on it, threw that away, but we forgot to unplug the electronic fly deterrent. Haven't had a problem with flies since, because my uncle moved out and the dogs, you know, they're not going in and out all day. And so we were doing this, so I'm in my office. And so every summer since then, I would go out back frequently, and sometimes bees would get in to the room. And I think the bees are attracted to this, and so to this deterrent, because they'll come into the room and they will be as dumb as those little tiny flies. They'll like zoom around the light like a dumb fly would. They would like land right next to you. And they wouldn't sting you. You could like flick them, knock them. They would fly straight into your head and like land on my keyboard. And I'm just like, get off my keyboard, you retarded bee. And so the question is, if I take the electronic deterrent out and flies come back, is that better than leaving it in and dealing with these retarded bees now? Because I think they're somehow attracted to it. And so that's what I'm wondering, you know, because I've never seen such docile, unaggressive bees. You know, and so, yeah, that's my retarded bees story and my retarded bees question. I feel like I should return this call, but I can't. I'm in the middle of my show. Anyway, all right, I want to talk about this movie that I saw this weekend. I'm going to text somebody. I'm sorry, I got to do it. I'm sorry, it's a live show, but it has to be done. Somebody's trying to reach me, and
potentially an important.
Yeah, it's important.
How frustrated are you going to be if it's a silly?
I know I'll be frustrated, but you know, people are like that. They'll do that. But you know, it's possible this person doesn't know that I have a YouTube channel. So, doing my show right now. Done round 3. All right. And now you guys are all my witnesses that I wasn't ignoring anybody. All right. So I want to talk about this movie I saw over Thanksgiving. I saw it on Thanksgiving, and that is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I know I talked about it. Everyone's telling me I had to see it, so I did. I saw it at my sister's house on Thanksgiving, and I was the most annoying house guest she ever had. because I was laughing my head off so loud and so long that I had to pause twice because I was legitimately concerned I might pee my pants. And so now that I've seen it, spoiler alert. Thanks for not spoiling it for me, but now that I've seen it, I don't care about spoilers. All right, lost my place. First of all, you have to understand that this movie is only about 30 to 35% true. Now, let me put it this way. Someone suggested to Al that they would really like to do a documentary about his life because the Queen movie and the Elton John movie and the Bowie movies and, all these docs about great musicians are all the rage right now. And so Al and Eric Apple sat down to write it. And they got about 5 minutes into it and then just said, let's just have fun with this. And it's like how Al approaches every creative project. His parents didn't discourage him, but that kind of you'll never make it, your dad can get you a job at the factory, walk hard thing is a trope that's always used in these kinds of movies. But you have to ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a door-to-door accordion salesman? And who calls the cops on a polka party? Because these things happened in the film. Excuse me. As EK and everyone else told me that this film was very meta and self-aware, and it never wastes an opportunity to make a joke. When Al comes up with My Bologna and goes to perform it at that club, his friends/band jump up on stage and start playing musical instruments to back up their friend. But Al turned to them afterwards and says, I didn't know you could play. And they say something like, oh, we didn't know until we tried, or something like that. It's hilarious, It's really clever. They never waste an opportunity to tell a joke. All right. If I could sum up why I love this movie into one scene, it's when Al and his band go into Dr. Demento's pool party, and everyone who is anyone was there. But Wolfman Jack, played by Jack Black, challenges Al to make up a parody song on the spot. And John Deacon, the bassist from Queen, suggests another one bites the dust. And after a couple of minutes, Al comes up with another one rides the bus. And everyone is impressed. Wolfman Jack eats some humble pie, and John Deacon asks Al to come perform that song with Queen at Live Aid, and Al says, hard pass! Which is classic Al. It's just like Al, the big-time Queen. You know what I'm saying? That's why I love that scene. It's because of it. It reminded me of the romance of those 80s radio days. Wolfman Jack, Dr. Demento. Hell, I used to record Dr. Demento's radio show onto cassette tapes back in those days. And in many ways, this is the stuff that I loved back then, and it helped to lead me to where I am now. Love that scene. But then Dr. Demento doses Al with LSD. And it's almost like from that point forward, it's like Al was that guy who took too much acid and it broke his brain and he is tripping for the rest of his life. Because he comes up with Eat It, and the film presents it as if Michael Jackson copied Al with the song Beat It. And then Madonna comes into his life because halfway through the script, they realized, oh, dang, we need an antagonist. And what better antagonist than Madonna? And it plays very well. And I bet Madonna was sent the script, she laughed her ass off, and signed off on it. Anyway, in the movie, Madonna forces liquor on Al, which is hilarious because he's a Christian, single, straight edge kind of guy. And Al goes through this sort of prima donna, famous gone to my head phase that every movie like this has. And soon, Madonna gets kidnapped by Pablo Escobar. And Al turns into a ninja and fights his way to Pablo Escobar to take him out. Madonna takes over his business. Al breaks up with her. Oh, yeah, because they were having a fling. So Madonna puts a hit out on Al, and that's why Al was killed at an award show in 1985. Seriously, that's how the movie goes. Trust me, I didn't spoil that much for you. All right. Now, Daniel Radcliffe, I think he did very well in this role. That hard pass line, hard pass. He really dealt that very much. He sounded very much like Al when he did that. And so, and most of the time looking at him with the hair and the mustache and shirts and stuff like that, I didn't see Harry Potter. I saw Al. So good for him. That was a good role. And then there was Acid Rain Wilson as Dr. Demento, who was always kind of a goofy turd, and so I think that was probably well cast because Rainn Wilson's kind of a goofy turd. And so, yeah, I think it was a pretty good movie. Anyway, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to spoil any more of the movie because there's all sorts of subtle gags that I couldn't even probably mention or, you know, or do justice to. So believe me, I didn't spoil that much. Weird, the Al Yankovic story. 13 of 13 stars. However, it's a very, very specific genre. For example, the last film to score this high in this category was UHF. EK's was waiting for my review on it. All right. So, I want to talk a little bit about seasonal affective disorder because, you know, it's getting to that time of year where, you know, depression seeps in for a lot of people, And so, and it creeps in on me, you know, luckily I've had, you know, good results of the medication I have. And the depression, I don't want to get into the specifics of my depression. Instead, what I usually do when I start feeling sad, when I start feeling depressed, I do what everyone I think should do, and that's turn to comedy and music. And so what I want to talk about is something that's a little bit of both, considering we're just talking about Weird Al Yankovic, who is a blend of comedy and music. And the next thing I want to talk about is Bo Burnham. And Bo Burnham always makes me laugh. He's a fantastically talented artist. And I want to talk about the lyrics to this song, S.A.D, that he wrote. It's one of my favorite songs that he wrote. All right, and it goes, this next song is a little bit longer than the last one, and it's all about the sad stuff I see in the world. I see a lot of sad stuff, and it's called sad. All right. Picture a depressed onion cutting itself. Hilarious. I met a homeless man named Rich. Isn't that terrible? I saw a flyer for a lost dog, and the dog didn't have any legs. I saw a diabetic kid trick-or-treating. I saw a giraffe who had a short neck. That was sad. Or a deer. I saw an old man get hit by a train. He didn't see it in the pouring rain. He didn't hear me shout, "Look out for the train," because I didn't say anything. I just thought to myself, this is going to be sad. And I was right. I'm a genius. I saw a man with only one eye in a 3D movie. I saw a little boy drop his ice cream cone directly on his mother's corpse. I saw a kitten stuck in a tree, and then the kitten jumped off and hung itself. I saw a boy who had red hair. I went to a store looking for something to buy, but they only sold paintings of the same sad guy. No, wait, this store sells mirrors. See what I did there? Let's rock! No. This world is so sad, friends. Pain, war, genocide, racism, sexism. But I got to remember there's good things about it too. Like the fact that none of that's happening to me. Score. Still, though, it's hard not to be sad about it. How do y'all do it? I've been telling you guys terribly sad things this whole song, and you haven't been sad at all. No, you've been happy. You've been laughing. That's it, laughter. That's the key to ending all the way to solve all the sadness in the world. I mean, not for the people who are actually sad, but for the people like us who got to fucking deal with them all the time. Being a comedian isn't about being an insensitive prick, capitalizing on the most animalistic impulses of the public. It's being a hero. The world isn't sad. The world's funny. I get it now. I'm a sociopath. I saw an old man slip and fall. What a fucking idiot. I saw a woman at her daughter's funeral. Ha ha ha. Classic comedy. Everything that was once so sad is somehow funny now. The Holocaust and 9/11, that shit's funny 24/7. Because tragedy will be exclusively joked about. Because my empathy is bumming me out. Goodbye, sadness. Hello, jokes. Believe me, the song does way more justice because that he knows how to turn a musical phrase as well as a verbal phrase. But here's the thing. It's like every time I start to feel sad about myself or feel sorry for myself, I listen to this song by Bo Burnham, and I can't feel sorry for myself because I'm too busy feeling sorry for Bo Burnham. Because this song, it kind of implies that he has a feeling of shame and guilt for making jokes at all these horrible things. But, these horrible things in the world that happen, they're going to happen regardless of how we react to it. So, it's like soldiers who have seen a lot of combat. They have a real like dark humor. Cops are the same way because they see a lot of dead bodies, they have a dark sense of humor, and the very few people who who understand that, when somebody makes a joke about something that's awful, like an old man getting hit by a train or a boy who has red hair, people are going to get hit by trains. Kids are going to be born with red hair, and we can't stop this tragedy, but how we react to it helps us emotionally. And I feel bad for Bo Burnham because I think he doesn't understand that you don't need to feel any shame for having a laugh at this stuff, especially if it keeps you from being sad. What's it that Qui-Gon says to Anakin? Your focus determines your reality. Anyway, I want to talk about one more thing before we get into the news. And that's, all right, fast forward to January 1st, 2025. Donald Trump has won the presidency, and he's going to be sworn in a couple days, 5 days. All right. It's a new year, and Donald Trump is going to be the second president in history to serve 2 consecutive terms. Now, forget all the emotion and rational stuff that has to happen between now and then. Just imagine we're at that point, and Donald Trump's about to be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. The last president to have served 2 non-consecutive terms was Grover Cleveland. All right. And that's something that Donald Trump has in comparison to Grover Cleveland. And, it's funny because there's not a whole lot of parallels to like Grover Cleveland's first term to Donald Trump's first term. And so, but, I think it could be interesting using Grover Cleveland's second term to describe, to predict what might happen in Donald Trump's next term. Potentially. There's people out there scared out of their mind. Listen to this. All right. So here's the thing. It's like, Donald Trump, for example, no, let's put it like this way. Grover Cleveland, when he came into office the second time, he was dealing with like the Federal Reserve, and there was this like argument about like silver and how the U.S. currency should be. Like, should it be just the gold standard or a gold and silver standard? And so, people were arguing about that back in those late 1800s days, and stuff like that. And it's a whole different argument these days. And so imagine like Trump comes into office, and he's like, let's make American money silver again. After all, the dollar sign, the S in the dollar sign, that stands for silver, So make America currency silver again. Oh, that would be awesome for our economy, wouldn't it? Considering how far we got to stretch a dollar these days, all of a sudden your money's your quarters are worth more than a $10 bill. That would be awesome. All right, what else was he? Grover Cleveland had to deal with the Pullman strike. And didn't I hear today that there was some like potential railroad strike that was going to happen? Hey, shit don't change. And so Donald Trump would have to deal with like the Pullman strike, Maybe he can get it right this time. And didn't Grover Cleveland in the second term like get cancer and had a secret operation to have it removed because they didn't want the economy to collapse, thinking that the president was sick or going to die or something like that? He ended up serving out his term anyway and died like, I think, 10, 15 years later. Can you imagine that? If Trump beats cancer while in office? That's what you Democrats need to worry about. If Trump beats cancer while in office, that's when you're like, oh my God, he may have pulled an FDR. He may pull an FDR. Exactly. You'd have to ride that all the way to your deathbed. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I think it's interesting to think about like the comparisons we get like Grover Cleveland and Donald Trump, because I think the Venture Brothers did this thing where they talked about like Grover Cleveland's presidential time machine. And that concept like baffled me for weeks, and I'm discussing it with other time travel nerds They're like, how did it work? Do you think that economy got so bad in his second term, and like the silver like became a problem? They made the wrong call, and the market like just crashed, and the United States broke into this huge civil war, and it turned into something awful. But Grover Cleveland gets a hold of a time machine somehow and goes back and wins the presidency in his first term in order to get ahead of that problem, because he was dealing with this silver issue in both terms. It was like a silver issue sandwich with Benjamin Harrison in the middle. I think it was Benjamin Harrison. Anyway, so that's this is where independent thought leads you. Think for yourselves is what I'm saying. You'll find your mind far more entertaining than anything you can find on any other YouTube channel than this one. All right, let's get into the news worth knowing. I saved it there at the end. Did you see that? Pulled a victory from the jaws of defeat. All right, let's deal with this Cold War shit. So South Korea scrambles jets as China-Russia warplanes enter air defense zone. All right. So South Korea's military scrambled its jets after 2 Chinese and 6 Russian warplanes entered its air defense identification zone, KADIZ, K-A-D-I-Z, without early warning, early on Wednesday morning, this morning. 2 Chinese H-6 bombers first crossed the air defense zone shortly before 5:50 a.m. and proceeded to repeatedly fly over the KADIZ boundaries off of South Korea's southern and northeast coast to the Joint Chief of Staff said, according to Seoul-based news outlet Yonhap. After leaving South Korea's KADIZ around 7 a.m., the 2 Chinese bombers returned some 5 hours later with Russian warplanes, including 4 Tu-95 bombers and 2 Su-35 fighters, and flew over Seoul's air defense identification zone through the Sea of Japan around 12:20 p.m. So it was like an all-day affair. Well, I mean, if something like that happens, I imagine their air defense forces are probably going to be on alert for at least 24 hours, if not 48, 72, I don't know. The planes reportedly left South Korean KADIZ less than 20 minutes later. South Korea responded to the aggression by deploying an indeterminate number of aircraft, including F-15K jets, in a precautionary move, officials said. F-15K. They're probably special F-15s made for Korea that have like little like Digimon interface on the computers and stuff like that. Do you think? Yeah. I don't know. Bring anime up there with them to watch on those long flights, refueling missions. Anyway, South Korea jokes. I'm sorry. Never been there. I heard they have awesome like arcades. So that's one reason to go to South Korea. Our military dispatched, this is a quote, dispatched Air Force fighter jets ahead of the Russian and Chinese aircraft's entry of the KADIZ to implement tactical measures in preparation of a potential contingency, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement, according to Reuters. South Korea's military said that despite crossing its defense identification zone, the foreign aircraft did not violate Seoul's territorial airspace. That's right. This zone here that they're talking about is just like, if you ever seen Star Trek, they had the neutral zone, between like, I think the Klingons and the Romulans, because they were at war. And so they created this neutral zone. And so there are so many plot lines where it involves like somebody goes into the neutral zone and then comes back out and so forth. Back in, and then that neutral zone comes back out. It's like, why'd you cross the neutral zone? Why did we find you in the neutral zone? It's so much stuff like that. And this is what it's like. And the whole concept of the neutral zone in Star Trek was based upon this border, the border between North and South Korea, because that's how it works. They have this like buffer zone where it's like supposed to be neutral and includes the airspace as well. Anyway, so this goes on. It talks about like the air defense and like China. China's got this and the U.S. has got that, and who's got who's back. But you have to remember that China's dealing with serious population protests and borderline riots in China right now. You got to understand that Russia is losing in Ukraine for now. Winter is coming. They're like the Starks. Winter's their shit. And these two countries are kind of falling apart in many ways, and so it's just two big countries flexing their muscles, hopefully for the last time. I hope they don't try to start something, but I mean, because I mean that is obviously a nightmare scenario, and that's why this is the first story, because this is really worth knowing, because it can all happen because of some jackass who's got his back to the wall. And so it reminds me of that scene in that movie Don't Be a Menace to South Central, where drinking you juice in the hood, and somebody comes up to what's his name, Loke Dog, yeah, and he shows him his gun, and they just keep escalating these bigger guns, and then finally Loke Dog's like opens up the van and goes, "Do we have a problem?" with the Russian nuclear missile pointed at him, right? And this is what it all is in many ways. In the neighborhood of the world, this is two guys on the street corner flashing their pieces at each other. And just like a nuclear missile in South Central, going off in South Central, because some gang member got a hold of some surplus Russian technology, it could create a big fat mess. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's move on to the next story. All right. I promise it's going to get happier as the news goes on. All right. I promise. So, Hawaii's Mauna Loa eruption. Stunning video shows lava spewing into the air. I can't believe these jackasses are going that close to get this stuff. I hope you're in a helicopter. Oh, here it is. Stunning footage taken by a helicopter. Oh, good. I feel better already. Which has captured close-up views of Hawaii's Mauna Loa. Hawaiian words. They're so fun to say. Erupting with lava spewing into the air. It's the first time the volcano has erupted since 1984, marking the end of Mauna Loa. Mauna. It's not Moana. It's not a Disney movie. Mauna Loa's longest quiet period in recorded history. Yeah, wasn't there one like 5 years ago in Hawaii? Different one, though. Different. The eruption began in, oh boy, another Hawaiian word. Moku o Oeoeo. Moku Oeoeo. Hawaiian words. The summit caldera of Mauna Loa on Sunday at approximately 11:30 p.m. Hawaiian Standard Time. There's so much ocean out there. It's just, according to the Hawaii Volcano Observatory. The Northeast Rift Zone eruption of Mauna Loa continues with several fissures and lava flows active. The U.S. Geological Survey said in Tuesday, and noted that no property is at risk currently. So this afternoon, fountains at Fissure 3 were consistently 131 to 164 feet tall. And fountains at Fissure 4, which were formed approximately 7:30 p.m. Hawaii time on November 28th, were 16 to 33 feet tall. Hawaii Governor David Ige, tweeted that Hawaii Island, where Mauna Loa is located, is open to visitors, and it is safe to view the volcano from a distance. Please respect our community and avoid closed areas, residential neighborhoods, and no parking zones. Does that mean a lot of people are going out there to look at it? Oh, geez, be careful, people. It's funny because, lava is one of the most destructive forces in nature, But, once it cools off and stuff starts growing on that soil, it's so rich. So it's amazing. It's like creation and destruction are connected, bro. Let's smoke some DMT. Hey, man, you ever tried DMT? Look that shit up, Jamie. Pull up DMT molecule. Let's take a look at that, Jamie. Anyway, yeah, stay safe, Hawaiians. Don't get too close. Tulsi Gabbard is super hot. Hotter than that volcano. I'm getting old. When I was like 19, I wouldn't have looked twice at her. I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, Anyway. Let's go to this next story. San Francisco police approve plan to allow police robots to use deadly force in emergency situations.
What?
Yeah, EK. I knew he would perk up with this one.
It's against the laws of robotics.
It's against the laws of robotics, number one. And number two, the San Francisco. I know someone there has seen RoboCop. It's a bad idea. All those movies are awful. Anyway, so San Francisco leaders, and all right, you're going to love this because it's San Francisco's idea of lethal force. All right, listen to this. San Francisco leaders voted to allow the city's police department to use potentially lethal robots in emergency situations. Under this policy, the San Francisco Police Department is authorized to use these robots to carry out deadly force in extremely limited situations when risk to loss of life of members of the public or officers is imminent and outweighs any other force option available, City Supervisor Raphael Mandelman wrote on Twitter. San Francisco leaders voted 8-3 on Tuesday in support of the new policy. The San Francisco Police Department has 17 robots, but none are armed with guns. Did you catch that? I paused for effect, and the department has no plan to put guns on them. The department could deploy robots equipped with
lethal melee force,
explosive charges.
Oh my god.
Suicide bots. to contact, incapacitate, or disorient violent, armed, or dangerous suspect during emergency situations when lives are at risk, according to the police department spokesperson. I'll just blow it all up. It's a big shithole in San Francisco anyway, I guess. You know, I think, hasn't marijuana been legal the longest in California? Can we rethink this whole thing? You know, I think we're all getting way too high. You know, what is going on here? People don't know if they're boys or girls because, you know, they grew up and they got into mom's gummies or something and watched the Disney Channel. Anyway. Yeah, let's talk about some more insanity. So here's an interesting thing. World Cup of 2022. Iranians cheer for the USA over home country amid the ongoing protests. Now, if you haven't heard about this, there have been over these last few months, there have been big protests in Iran, a, you know, theocratic, totalitarian kind of monstrous state where, you know, there's just women there who want to feel cute. You know what I mean? They want to go out and get their hair done. They want to drive a car there too. But no, not in Iran. Anyway, so amid protests in Iran that have lasted close to 3 months, many Iranians were rooting for the United States to defeat their own home country in Tuesday's World Cup match. Tuesday's match was pivotal for both squads. Iran would have advanced to the knockout stage with a draw, while the USMNT needed a win, which it got to advance. However, some protesters feel an Iran loss or draw will now hurt the regime on the world stage and give fuel to the protesters' fight. That's why I don't care about the World Cup. That's why I don't care about soccer, because these World Cup matches can end in draws. What are you doing? Somebody's got to win. Anyway, however, some protesters feel an Iranian loss or draw would hurt the regime on the world stage and give fuel. Oh, I just read that. My bad. In an encrypted telephone interview with Fox News Digital on Monday, an Iranian woman who called herself Maura and lives in southern Iran said it's not just some people in Iran, it was a majority of the people in Iran here that want the U.S. to win on Tuesday. The silent majority of Iranians did not celebrate the regime's victory over Wales. Because it's Wales. I'm kidding, my Welsh friends. Celebrations occurred in many districts of Tehran, the capital of Iran, in case you didn't study, as well as the highly populated cities of Mastad, Isfahan, and Karash. Those cities I don't know, and I'm as ignorant as you are of where they are. Yeah. Ali Safavi, a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Paris-based National Council of Resistance of Iran, released the following statement. The jubilant reaction across Iran over the regime's soccer team's defeat tonight reflects first and foremost the degree to which the Iranian people loathe and detest the ruling mullahs and want to see it overthrown. They know that the regime is trying to exploit the presence of its team at the World Cup to overshadow the ruthless manner in which it has cracked down on this nationwide uprising, which has left 660 protesters, including at least 60 children, dead and 30,000 arrested. At no time in this 43-year rule has the regime been so isolated in the eyes of the Iranian people who are determined as ever to topple it. All right, there's no reason read any more of this article. You know, these people are fighting for freedoms that too many Americans here take for granted. You know, they wish, there's half the population in Iran that wish they could go down to the hair salon and get some compliments on the way back. They can't do that over there. in the 70s, Iran was like pretty cool. They're talking about 43 years since the mullahs are in charge, the Khomeinis. And it's just been this repressed society ever since. And now these people are, have been protesting. They want to be liberalized to some degree. I'm sure a lot of them want to stay Muslim, but they would like to, just let their, sleep in and let their wives take their kids to soccer practice. You know what I mean? Anyway. The two last stories are usually happier, more upbeat. So let's do this story. Like, I wrote like a headline for this, and it's kind of the reason why I was never good at writing headlines in journalism class for the school paper. But in comparison to the real headline, I just want you to weigh which is better. My headline for this article is The Fable of the Pot and the Kettle. But the real headline is George Takei calls William Shatner, quote, cantankerous old man in response to actor's bitter claim. Or The Fable of the Pot and the Kettle. All right, so George Takei slammed former co-star William Shatner as a cantankerous old man this week, the latest shot in a decades-long war of words between these two actors. He's just a cantankerous old man. I'm going to leave him to his devices, Takei, 85, told The Guardian in a Monday interview. I'm not going to play his game. He added, I know he came to London to promote his book and talked about me wanting publicity to use his name. So I decided I don't need his name to get publicity. I have much more substantial matter and that I want to get publicity for, so I'm not going to refer to Bill in this interview at all, although I just did. I know. After he was asked by the interviewer if Shatner was a cantankerous young man, Takei said he's self-involved. He enjoyed being the center of attention. He wants everyone to kowtow to him. Last week, Shatner 91 told the London Times that Takei has never stopped blackening his name and called him and other former Star Trek stars, co-stars, bitter and embarrassed. Embittered. Bitter and embittered. He must be embarrassed. I've run out of patience with him, Shatner said. That's why give credence to people consumed by envy and hate? He's talking about them, plural. Okay. Takei and Shatner starred together in the original Star Trek series, unless you've been living under a rock. Takei told The Guardian that there was great camaraderie on the set of the space exploration show, except for Shatner, who Takei called a prima donna. He added, the rest of us shared a great camaraderie. One of the gifts from Star Trek was not just the longevity, but the colleagues that became lasting friends. My colleagues were part of my wedding party in 2008. Shatner's claimed that he was not invited to Takei's wedding to longtime partner Brad Altman, while Takei said that Shatner did not want to come. Jeez.
Who doesn't want to go to a gay wedding? Those things are
I don't want to go to a gay wedding. Doesn't make sense. It's funny because if you've seen that movie Galaxy Quest, Tim Allen plays the Shatner character and everybody hates him. And that's why the movie is so funny. Galaxy Quest is so funny is because it's so based on Star Trek and stuff like that. I mean, this has been well known that, Shatner is a bit of a, what's the word? Actor douche, I guess is the word, but it's not like George Takei has, has much room to stand on. He's not a very good actor. I think the best thing he did was that Twilight Zone episode that got banned for years because it was too controversial. And so, and I thought it was a really good episode, and I thought George Takei did a very good job. But that's the last thing I saw him in that I thought he did any good work in. Shatner, he was in at least two Twilight Zone episodes. Now, The Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, where, there's something on the wing. And then there's the one where he found this the fortune-giving thing, and he keeps following the fortunes and luck, anyway. But, in both of those roles, Shatner blows away Takei in acting skills. Shatner had chops, he was friggin' TJ Hooker, for God's sakes, So get out of here with this, George Takei. The only reason anyone cares about you now is because you are gay. That's it. You pop up everywhere, every now and then in a movie as gay guy, gay celebrity. It's like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg pops in a movie and is like, hey, I'm the high guy. That's how you cast Snoop Dogg. I mean, am I wrong? But you're the drama queen. you got giving out these statements, and you're making these other news agencies on different parts of the world. Did you? Sorry, Mr. Shatner, but did you hear what George Takei said of you? I'm in London. Who cares what George Takei said? All right, let's get to the last story, and then we'll get out of here, and I'm going to call some people back. Anyway, Dwayne Johnson buys every Snickers at Hawai'i 7-Eleven to right this wrong of candy thefts as a 14-year-old. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson joked this week that he finally exorcised that damn chocolate demon. After he returned to a Hawai'i 7-Eleven where he claimed he used to steal a Snickers bar every day as a 14-year-old, and he bought out all of the Snickers bars. The Black Adam star explained in an Instagram post that his family was broke as hell and he was living on the island, and for nearly a year when he was 14, he would swipe a Snickers bar from the store as his pre-workout snack. The actor and former wrestler known as The Rock and his family was evicted from Hawaii in 1987, and he wanted to return to right his wrong for decades. The video posted to Instagram, the 50-year-old had a clerk ring up all the store Snickers, leaving them on the counter and telling him to give the Snickers to any customers who look like they're going to steal one.
Let's just start handing candy bars to old ladies.
Old ladies get the candy bars? Well, here's the thing. What if the clerk started handing it out to black people? It's like some white guys come up to the counter, what's with the Snickers bars? Like, they're for people who want to steal a Snickers bar. And it's like, oh, it's clearly not me. How do you tell? Or is it somebody who comes in there and is like, hey, there's no Snickers bars over here. I wanted to steal one. They're like, oh, they're up here. Come get it for free.
Get it for free.
Yeah. It's like, why can't I get them for free over here? Anyway, he had to ring it up. It was like a couple $100. And also he tipped the clerk who had the task of counting the dozens of bars. Additionally, he paid for the customer's groceries while he was in line for the 7-Eleven, reaching a bill of $298 just because people wanted to get out of there. You're holding everybody up with this publicity stunt, Rock. And there's this one guy getting a 40 and like a bottle of water. Come on, bro. I just got off work, man. Ran up to $298. He wrote that he realized that the deed might seem silly to some, but Johnson noted that every time he was returned to Hawaii and gone by the 7-Eleven, he always knew that he needed to go in there and clean out every Snickers bar that they had the right way. And as a bonus, it was a lot of fun to take care of everybody who walked into 7-Eleven while I was there. Least I could do considering the shit I used to steal from there. Yeah. Johnson continued, we can't change the past, and there may be some dumb stuff we have done, but every once in a while we can add a little redeeming grace note to that situation, and maybe put a smile on some strangers' faces. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know how it is. It's funny because it's about guilt. Years later, do you care about the things you steal? Yeah. I feel bad about the things I stole when I was 14. Same age. It's funny because that's when most boys start even attempting stealing, shoplifting and stuff like that. And he was using it to get his, get his protein and sugar before a workout. Now he's a, billionaire, gazillionaire or whatever, and trying to give back a little bit based upon, his own personal experience. And I think that that's extremely cool of him. And good for him. So this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. I would appreciate that very much. You can also follow me on social media at DenolitSaw on Twitter. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Did you like that presentation? Anyway, I also have books available for digital download on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's. I got The Bunny Years, a memoir, The Ravings of a Madman, Exit 13 books, 3 of them, Merge, Blind Corner, and Keep Right. Read the description to find out which one comes first and second and third. And yeah, or you can follow the links down in the description below, which will be there tomorrow, or you can find links in the previous video. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, so please like, share, and subscribe. I would love you for it forever. And this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.